What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. This is TWA Motorsports, and today, you guessed it, we are working on the CTS-V. Now, I have not worked on this car a whole lot. I guess I've had a couple videos here lately of fixing the strut, and well, that's really all I've done to it. It's been setting for a while, but if you guys have noticed in my videos, up there is a box, and nobody's really said anything, but that Airaid box and the green Filter USA box on top is going on the CTS-V. Now, I have had that for probably 6 months. In fact, if you go back in all my past videos, it's been sitting there, but today we are going to install it. So I'm going to give you guys a couple different clips. First of all, I'm going to show you how to put it in, but I'm also going to give you a clip of a before and after. So people say that the blower gets a little louder when you put an open element filter on, so we are going to test that theory. We have, I've got 3 or 4 different videos. So I've got a video in the car, so the sound in the car. I'm going to have a video of on the outside of the car. I'm going to have a video facing the car, just revving the engine, and then I'll have a video of like a flyby. So I'll have that at the end of the video so you can see before and after. But let's grab that box down and get started. Well, let's take a look at the kit, and as always, guys, I will list all these parts in the description down below, but it looks like there's quite a few pieces to it. There's several closeout panels. They're all your connections, your fittings, your clamps, your intake tube, of course the instructions, and it does come with a K&N filter. I have chosen to use the Green USA filter, which I'll also list that part number down below as well, but people say that the Green USA filter flows a little better and it's a little bit bigger, so I have opted to use that. We will not be using the K&N filter that comes with the kit. So let's get under the hood and see what we can mess up or take apart. The very first thing we're going to need to do is disconnect the negative side of the battery, which is just a 10mm. And it's kind of hard to get to, honestly, because there's a power wire running on top of it, but if you have a ratcheting wrench, it's not too bad. Once we get that unhooked, then we need to remove a couple plates on the engine. So we're going to remove the engine cover itself, this guy here, and this closeout panel, which they just clip on. It's not really hard to take them off. The next thing we need to do is disconnect the mass airflow and then your breather that goes into the PCV. There's 2 great clips on it, and then it just pulls off out of the way. The next thing we need to do is you're going to take loose with a flat blade screwdriver, these 2 screws here that hold it to the airbox and the one that holds it to the throttle body, and then we will pull the actual intake tube out of the way. The next thing we need to do is take this 10mm out here that holds the whole entire box to the fender. Now, if you have trouble getting it out, you can also take the Torx bits out of the top side here, but I think we'll be able to get it out just by taking that 10mm out. One other thing I found when I was pulling it apart is that coolant line runs into this clip. You just need to unclip it, and then it does come out as one piece. One of the other things, this is facing the front of the car, this is the radiator, but there is a rubber grommet here. Make sure that that's still in place. If it's on the airbox, take it out of the airbox and set it back into place. So the next thing we need to assemble is this big plate and this secondary plate, and you can see there's 4 holes, and we are going to screw or bolt this together. This is how it sets, those tabs facing rear, and this guy obviously setting on the inside. So you're going to do that with the flat washers, the screws, and then the nuts on the back side. It is a 5/16 if you're wanting to use something on the back side. You're not going to have to get these really tight, but that is our next step, and then there is one other panel that we have to add to this. Once you get that one bolted down, you're going to grab your next panel, and it's going to bolt in this location right here. Now the next panel we're going to be bolting on is this, and it's going to go on the outside just like this, and you're going to be attaching it the same way you did with the all the other ones. You just have those small 5/16 that go into place, and that should be it on this bracket. I'm not really sure why they couldn't put this together at the factory, but anyway, it's not that big a deal. It's just time consuming. Once we get that all together, we need to flip it over, and you need to install what looks like a rubber grommet, and that's going to install here with your bolt and your flat washer. Now if you want to tighten this up, it tightens down pretty good by hand, but it's a 1/2 inch. You can just snug it up a little bit. Now we've got a couple clips to install. We need to install this bottom piece of trim. So there is a piece of weather stripping here that installs, and it just pushes on. And I kind of left it out in the sun for a little bit. Hopefully it would be a little easier to put on. It's not the easiest thing to put on, but it's going. Alright, once you get that on, then there's a couple clips that are going to get installed. So, I don't know where I said, oh, there they go. These guys here, one goes here in the this top rail. They're just push-ins. And then the other one goes on the other side. And then once we get that into place, this air billow is going to go into here, and you're going to attach that with the screws and washers. Now there are black ones that also fit this. The black ones are not what you're using here. These are the stainless ones, and they're actually not a screw, they're a hex head, but grab that size. So it is a 4mm is what size you're going to use to tighten these down. And just remember, this nut cert that's on the back side of this is threaded into plastic, so you don't want to get really super aggressive tightening it down, because you will strip it out. This top one was a little cross-threaded, but we got it into place. Took a little bit of doing. Like I said, you don't want to over tighten these because you will strip out that plastic. So now we're done with the plate for a little bit, and we need to take the mass airflow sensor out of the old box. Now it is a T15, and you're not going to be reusing these actual bolts or screws, whatever you want to call them. The kit comes with new ones and lock washers. Now you need to be very careful with this because it's very sensitive, but you can see there's a little bit of a piece of plastic that protrudes out. That's going to set in this channel right here, so you ensure that the flow is going the correct way. Now we'll just grab our screws and screw it down. Now the new one is an Allen key, so you're going to have a set of Allen wrenches, in order to put them in correctly. Same thing here, being careful not to strip anything. And there is a lock washer that comes with it. It's really, really small, so it's real easy to lose. Just make sure that you don't drop it because it'll keep it from backing out. I'm not impressed with the fitment of that mass airflow sensor. I think it should fit a little closer to the edge. If you got it too tight, you'd end up cracking it, the housing anyway. They could have made the plastic a little nicer, but it's not a big deal. Just make sure you don't over tighten it. Once you get that mass airflow sensor installed, there's a rubber grommet that goes into place. And that's always fun to try to get in. But once you get it in, I'm able to get it here. Once you get that into place, then you're going to put in the hookup for your PCV. It just pushes down into that, and you are set. Now we need to put the ends on. So there's two separate ends. There's a one with the bulge in the center that's a little longer, and then there's one that actually fits on the end here. So the smaller one goes on this end, and then you're going to follow that by a clamp, and then the other one goes on this end, and same thing, you're going to put a clamp on both sides. One here and one here. So I've got my clamps all oriented the same direction just because I'm picky. You know, you don't have to do that, but this makes it a little bit easier to get to once it gets in the car to tighten these up. But the last step is it says to go ahead and put the logo on here. I'm going to wait until it's in the car so I'm not trying to push it and it's rolling around, and I want to clean it off really well. So let's move on to the next step. Now we got the plate back over here, and we need to install the fender mount. Just keeps it snug up against the fender. And I'm going to leave that a little bit loose because once it gets in the car, I'm going to, you're probably going to have to move it around. So I wouldn't get this completely tight until it's in the car. Now the instructions say you can go ahead and tighten it up, but I just know from past experience that once you get it in the vehicle, sometimes you have to make some adjustments, especially when it's an aftermarket part. Once we get that loosely installed, you're going to go ahead and put your filter on. Now, because I'm using such a large filter, chances are we may have to maneuver some stuff around, but I'm going to go grab the filter and it's going to clamp on the outside of this ring. This thing is massive. I've never installed a filter this big that I know of. And like I said, it's not going to fit the kit like the K&N one, but if you shove it in there, you may have to keep pressure on it while you're tightening up this clamp screw. So, but it is in there. It's touching on both sides, but like I said, it is a bigger filter, and you know, that's just part of the game. When you go to a different size, it's not meant for the kit. If you have the stock one, it's going to fit pretty nice. All right, the filter's on. One cool thing about using another filter, having two filters, is if I ever have to clean this one, I've got one to put on it and we can keep driving it without having to obviously set and wait. Now we're just about ready to install this in the car, but before we do, there's a 10mm ground strap at the bottom here. My finger is on it. You need to take that out and set it aside. That's part of what bolts this panel together. So go ahead and remove it, and then we'll go grab our panel and try to slide it into place. All right, so I'm pretty sure this is going to be a tough fit, just like I said, because of the size of the filter, but you're going to want to put that rubber grommet into the actual radiator support. Like I talked about, we didn't want to lose that rubber grommet. Wanted to make sure that it was in there. You're going to kind of slide it in first, and then just kind of thread your way down to the bottom until that last bolt that we took out, the 10mm for the ground, lines up. A couple of things that I want to show you guys is there's a wiring harness here that there's a cutout for. Make sure that that's in place. And then this bottom ridge needs to go towards the outside. But it is all lined up now. And the fender bolt, it's close, and we'll have to adjust it. Like I said, that's kind of the reason I did that. But we have everything into place. Now we're going to go ahead and start tightening everything up. I'm going to go ahead and use that 4mm to tighten up this fender bolt, and then we'll go grab the intake tube and put it into place where it needs to be. Got the intake tube here, and the first thing you need to do is install it on the throttle body, and then we got to snake it down to install it on the filter. And you don't want to pinch it. Obviously you want it to go on there, and this is always the fun part, you know. I think we've just about got it. All right, it's into place. Now we're going to go ahead and tighten up our clamps to hold it all together. One thing I will tell you guys, it's almost impossible to get a Phillips or a flathead screwdriver down in here to tighten this one up. I'm using a swivel and a 5/16. These two here I'm going to be able to tighten those up, but just a heads up that you might have an issue there. Just get you a swivel and a 5/16 short socket, and you'll be able to tighten that one up. Now, one thing I noticed that mine just pulled out of the intake tube. You need to push those two gray clips on the side, and then you can go ahead and hook this up and your mass airflow. Now we're going to push your coolant hose back into those two clips that we installed. You have to pull up a little bit. Put that into place, and then it can run underneath. There's a cutout for it here. And there are actually two zip ties that clip on the inside of the fender here to keep things in place. So you can go ahead and mount those as well. If you would like, you do not have to. That's just a step that you kind of tie stuff out of the way. It is kind of a neat little design. I'm going to put one in the back. It says to space them 6 inches apart. Doesn't really matter. That line's pretty tight in there, so it's not a requirement that you do that. But like I said, it is kind of a neat option that they send with the kit. Got my closeout panel here. I'm going to clip these off real quick. Now the closeout panel, there was another piece of rubber trim in the kit, and that's just to protect the fender from it gouging it up. It's really not anywhere close to it, but you're going to go underneath there, and then you have 4 bolts left, or 4 screws left. I don't know what I'd call them. They're almost like a machine screw, so I guess I'd call them a screw. Let's put those into place. And it actually says that you're supposed to tighten the this last because of alignment of these, but I had no issue, and frankly I like the way it fits better when I get it in the car and having the ability to adjust that as opposed to obviously lifting it back up and having to adjust it. The only last 2 things we need to do is I'm going to clean this off with some adhesive remover, just because we've had some oily hands before I put that sticker into place, and then we need to put the engine cover and the strut cover back on. That sticker actually looks kind of hokey, but I've seen a couple people that have a Cadillac one there. It's like a V series logo or the Cadillac logo. I might end up picking up one of those. I'm not real sure, but we are all finished under the hood, guys. Let's go hook up the negative side of the battery, and well, let's go see if it's any louder or if it's any faster. I doubt it's faster, but it definitely should be louder. Well, guys, tell me what you think. I think it's definitely louder. I'll tell you what, it is definitely louder, and it makes some sweet black marks, which it's always done that. That's no big deal, but we have them all the way down the road here. I think this, if anything, this mod is worth it just because of the sound. If it doesn't add an ounce of power, it's just cool to hear that blower running, and man, it just sounds so cool. So guys, I will list all the stuff, like I said, down below that I used. It's a relatively simple process. It can probably be done in about an hour. When you got to film it, it takes a little longer, but hopefully you guys are enjoying it. If you did, go down, smash that thumbs up button. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Cars going by making all kinds of noise. Anyway, if you're not subscribed, go down and hit that subscribe button. If you're down there subscribing, you might as well ring that bell icon. That way you're notified every time we drop a new video. And well, stay tuned to see if we do something on the CTS-V next, the Trans Am, the Corvette. We've got summer coming on, so it's going to be a lot of fun.